Hey guys, before we get on the scary roller coaster, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for your support. I never expected to get this far. I am thankful for each and every one of you who have supported since the beginning. God bless you all, and enjoy this video. The haunted video game, Ben Drowned. Ben and I used to go to school together. Well, at least until now. We were both the quiet kids at school, but one thing made us friends: video games. Everyone considered Ben weird, which was why he got bullied. Two of them were aggressive, but one of the bullies was a monster. Ben's situation at home wasn't good either. His dad had died in a car accident earlier that year. The only time I had seen him happy was when he bought a new game called Majora's Mask. He would spend hours and hours playing that game, and he always had it with him. One day before school, I went to pick him up so we could walk to school together. When I got to his house, he was playing the game. He saved the game and he put it in his bag. During break, Ben came running at me. He told me that his game wasn't in his bag and that one of the bullies had taken it. We went to the teacher and she told the bully to empty his bag. And sure enough, there was the game. Ben secretly told me to hold on to the game, that way the bully wouldn't get it. He told me we would meet after school, that way I could give it back. When I got home, I waited for him to call, but he never called. It was getting late, so I decided to go to his house. On my way there, I heard yells from a nearby lake. They sounded as if someone was being tortured. I walked towards the lake, and I saw 3 bullies kicking Ben, who was on the floor in pain. One of the bullies yelled at him, "So you saw me take that stupid video game. Don't worry, you won't see it again." He picked up a stick, and he stuffed it in one of Ben's eyes. He did the same for the other eye. Ben was screaming in pain. Blood dripped all over his eyes and his clothes. But the bully wasn't done yet. He grabbed Ben, and he sunk him in the lake. The bullies ran, and the cops came a few minutes later. I stood there, paralyzed. They had killed my friend in front of me. When I got home, I put the game on my desk, but I noticed it had something written on it. I looked at it closely, and it read, Majora. I didn't think much of it, and I went to sleep. In the morning, I got up and looked for the game, but it was missing. I looked and looked for it, but it was nowhere to be found. After a while, I decided to quit looking for the game. I turned on the TV, but before I changed the channel, something caught my eye. It was the bully that had killed Ben. He was on the news. The news said he had died in a mysterious way. They said both of his eyes were cut out, and his eye sockets were dripping blood, just like Ben when he died. I looked closer at the blurred image, and I saw my copy of the game. It had the word Majora written on it. There was just no way. Ben came back to kill him. A dog that ate cereal with a spoon. This is something that happened to a guy named Trejo. He posted this anecdote on Facebook. This is what the story said. My cousin and his dad invited me and my dad to go to a soccer game. We accepted and we went. The day of the game came and I had to take my other little cousin because the babysitter wasn't going to be there. That wasn't our problem, so we went to the game. When we got home, my 2 cousins went inside to use the bathroom. The rest of us were talking in the car. Not even 10 seconds passed when we heard a loud scream. The scream sounded as if someone was being tortured. We ran inside to see that my cousin was really pale, and my younger cousin was balled up under the table. We asked them what happened, but they didn't answer. Meanwhile, my cousin was screaming and he couldn't stand still. We didn't know what to do, so we tied him up to a chair to keep him still. After a while, he was only crying. We asked my younger cousin again, What happened? He told us that they walked in on the dog eating cereal with a spoon. Then my older cousin started screaming out again, so we had to call a hospital. They told us at the hospital that he was going to be traumatized for life, so he was put into an asylum for a few months. My aunt still couldn't believe what had happened, and then my little cousin got tired. He drew a picture of the dog. My aunt was shocked at the picture because she couldn't believe that the dog was actually eating cereal with a spoon. My little cousin proceeds to say that the dog was sitting on the table eating cereal with the spoon. When we heard the yelling, we never saw the dog at the scene, but my aunt claims that the dog was never seen again. When you think about it, the older cousin was put into a mental asylum because of what he saw. What he saw could have been very traumatizing, but the dog is still alive. Despite the fact him not being seen again doesn't mean he's dead. So the question is, where is he? The Russian sleep experiment. In the late 40s, it is said that a group of scientists directed a cruel experiment about sleep. This was known as the Russian sleep experiment. They were testing a gas that would lessen a human's need to sleep. For the experiment, they kept 5 people awake using an airborne stimulant. They were locked in a chamber where researchers could monitor them. The subjects were fine for 5 days, but after those 5 days, their conversations turned dark. They started to complain and act weird. On the 9th day, one of the subjects started to scream non-stop for 3 hours. When he finally stopped, the researchers found out that he cut his vocal cords. The second subject started to scream, and the other started to whisper. After a while, the screams stopped, and so did the whispers. For 3 days, the researchers had not heard anything from the room, so they decided to check the microphones to see if they were working, but they were fine. The researchers decided to make a deal. They said they would open the room, but would shoot if they tried to do something. But the subject said something strange. "We no longer want to be freed." On the final day at midnight, they opened the door and walked in. The subjects started screaming horribly. Only 4 of them were alive, but they had torn their skin apart and eaten it. The researchers said they were free, but the subjects refused to leave. They were yelling at the researchers to turn the gas back on. One of the subjects started tearing his skin, and he started bleeding so badly, he died. The last 3 were sent to a mental institution. 2 of them could still talk, but would beg and beg for the gas. The other one was in surgery to have his skin put back, but he was screaming for the surgeons to keep cutting. The other 2 subjects were laughing intensely. After this, they were put back in the chamber. The researchers didn't know what to do with them, so they put the gas back on to see what happened. The subjects immediately calmed down. One of the subjects laid in his bed and died instantly. There were only 2 left. After a while, the researchers got tired. A researcher opened the door, armed with a gun. This got the subjects mad. One of them stumbled towards the researcher. The researcher shot him instantly. The researcher looked at the last subject straight in the eye and asked, "What are you? We must know." The last subject formed a chilling smile with a horrible laugh. He answered, "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be free at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night." The researcher aimed at the subject's heart and pulled the trigger. The subject, on the floor, covered in blood, said his last 3 words. "So nearly free." Jeff the Killer. Jeff was just a 13-year-old boy when he moved into his new neighborhood. His parents and his brother Liu had decided to move into a new neighborhood to start a new life. On the first day of school, Jeff and Liu were met with 3 bullies. The bullies messed with them and treated them like animals. After about 2 weeks of this torture, the 3 bullies threatened Liu and Jeff with a knife. Jeff had enough. He brutally beat up the 3 bullies, even when they were unconscious. When the school found the unconscious bodies of the bullies, Liu took the blame for the fight and was arrested. This sent Jeff into a deep depression. Jeff was the one who beat them up. Why would Liu take the blame for him? 5 months later, Liu was released. A week later, Jeff was invited to a party. When he got there, he was met with the same 3 bullies. They were mad, and they wanted revenge. Minutes later, the 3 of them attacked Jeff. Jeff was furious. Jeff had lost his mind. He was sick and tired of the bullies. Jeff was able to brutally kill one of the bullies. but one of the other bullies covered Jeff with bleach and then lit Jeff on fire. When Jeff woke up, he was in a hospital. His head was all wrapped up in bandages. The doctors removed the bandages, revealing Jeff's horrible body. His face was disfigured, ghastly pale, and his lips were bright red. Jeff liked the way his face looked, especially when he laughed. When he got home, he cut his mouth with a knife into a disturbing smile. When he was done, he started laughing uncontrollably. When his parents saw his face and the way he laughed, they didn't know what to do. They decided he was better off dead. Jeff overheard this conversation. He grabbed a knife and he killed both of them. While dismembering their bodies, Liu got in the way. Jeff couldn't control himself. He killed Liu with no second thought. But before killing him, he said 3 words. Go to sleep. Laughing Jack. One day, at around 12 p.m., I heard my son James talking to someone in the backyard. I thought he had made a new friend, so I went to see who it was. He told me he was talking to someone called Laughing Jack. Since James was 5, I thought Jack was an imaginary friend. After all, he was 5. That night, I had a nightmare. I was walking into some kind of circus. When I walk in, I hear some kind of laugh. I look around, but all I see is shadows. I blink a couple times, and I see 1, then 2, then 6 figures come walking towards me. They seem to be children, but they were disfigured. I blink again, and I see they're decapitated. They slowly started to creep towards me. I tried to run, but I was frozen. I hear the laugh again. And then I wake up. I get up to get some water, but I see 6 of James's toys on my desk. They were positioned just like in my dream. I dismiss the thought and say it was James who put them there. Maybe it was some sort of coincidence. Later that day, I finished making dinner, so I called James, but he didn't answer. I locked the doors and looked for him in the backyard, but he isn't there. I run to the front yard, and I see him, but he's chewing on something. I ask James what's in his mouth. He turns around and shows me a handful of candy. I ask him who gave him the candy, and he answers, Laughing Jack did. I immediately made him spit out the candy. He seemed to be fine, so we walked in for dinner. At this point, I didn't know what to think about Jack. I didn't even know whether he was real or not. So then I convinced myself that the neighbor gave him the candy. But then the thought was interrupted by a whimpering sound. I walk into the kitchen, and I hear the same laugh from my dream. I turn around to see who it was, but all I see is our dog hanging from the ceiling. His stomach was cut open, and instead of organs, there were candy. The same candy that James was eating. Laughing Jack, Part 2. I took James and we ran to the neighbor's house. We called the police and they ran a quick investigation. They came to the conclusion that we were robbed. I could literally not believe the police. There was no way we were robbed. I locked all the doors before I went to go get James, and there's no way a robber would have dismembered and hung a dog like that. That night, I go to sleep with a rifle next to my bed. I just know that something will happen, and whether this person is real or not, nothing would happen to James. I also leave the old baby monitor on just in case something happens. At the middle of the night, I hear a faint moan from James's room. I get up and I look at the baby monitor, but it's completely black. I get up and I go to his room to see what happened, but all I see is James's body, dismembered and nailed to the wall. Suddenly, I hear the ugly laugh again. I look around, but all I see is a figure starting to form in front of James. It was tall, had long black hair, and it was wearing a clown suit. He was holding a knife, and he was covered in blood. He started laughing again, and he began walking towards me. I grabbed my rifle and I hold the trigger down, but he suddenly disappeared. The shots that I had fired shot into James, killing him instantly. I had killed my own son. When the police came, they took me to jail. From there, they transferred me to a mental hospital. I really don't know how long I've been here for, but to be honest, I don't think I'll ever get out. Because to this day, I can never stop hearing that horrible laugh. The year was 1999. I was a happy young boy that loved Pokemon and anime. I loved it so much that my dad bought me my very own TV so that I could watch Pokemon. Although the TV was very old and only had 30 channels, I was grateful. After all, I had it to myself. After a couple days, I discovered a channel called Call It On Local 21. It was a channel that broadcasted from Canada. I don't exactly remember how many shows there were on that channel. As of now, I only remember 3, because they left a permanent scar in my head. The first show was called Bobby. It was a show where the characters were simply just live-action hands. The second one, I don't remember its name, but I remember the show. It had a can of soup and a spoon. The ending always showed 7 kids sitting around a table, each with a bowl of soup. All the kids looked confused. This happened until the cameraman said, "Spoons ready?" and the show would end then and there. The third show, I still remember to this very day. It was called Mr. Bear's Cellar. The show was a guy in a bear costume that would get a new visitor in his cellar every day. The visitor was always a kid. I wish my memories would end there, but they don't. One night, I decided to watch some TV. I put on channel 21 and saw Mr. Bear's Cellar was on. There was a kid who was talking to Mr. Bear, saying how it was late and that him and his sister should be heading home. Mr. Bear simply answered, "I don't care." The kid started to climb up the stairs and started yelling that he was going to call the police. Mr. Bear got angry. His eyes got darker and darker until they were pitch black. He started running at the kid. Then the episode ended in a black screen. The black screen then turned into static. Although I was kind of creeped out, I decided to stay and watch the show Bobby. The show turned on, but it was weird. The episode was Bobby holding a pair of scissors and another hand that was smaller than Bobby. The hand seemed as if it was a child's hand. The hand was shaking as if it was trying to move, but it seemed as if it was being forced to be there. Bobby got closer, and he started to cut the fingers one by one. I immediately turned off the TV. I could not stand to watch that. After a while, I decided to send Mr. Bear a letter to go on the show. Mr. Bear gave me a polite response and gave me his address. So me and my dad went to the address, but when we got there were 2 police officers. We asked the police officer what was wrong, and he told us the truth. Bobby and Mr. Bear were the same person. Mr. Bear would kidnap kids, hold them in his cellar until he dismembered and killed them. After that horrible incident, I decided to start investigating. I saw the tapes that the police had given me to see. It was terrifying. One of the videos was an episode in the forest. The camera was aiming at a campfire that seemed to be in a large hole, but something was moving in there. I looked closer at the monitor, and it was a kid, begging for his life. I really can't tell you how my mental state has been watching those tapes, watching how many kids have died in brutal ways. But honestly, I just want to find out the truth. Why would Mr. Bear do that? I've had that question, until now. I got an email from Mr. Bear. He said he was sorry we couldn't meet whenever I came to visit, so he wants to see me again. But before I go, I just want to tell y'all, I will be back, and I will tell y'all the truth. I really can't swear, but I promise, I will be back.
Carlos, can you pass me that pencil?
Yeah. Here.
Thanks.
No problem.
Hey, do you remember that guy who was investigating Mr. Bear's cellar?
You're still on about that? That was back in 2015.
Yeah, but what happened to him? Ever since he posted he was going to see Mr. Bear, he never came back.
Dang. You think Mr. Bear killed him?
Honestly, saw how he chased that kid in that one episode. Mr. Bear gets aggressive when things don't go his way.
So that's why he never came back.
Alright, class, quiet down. The test will start in 5 minutes.
Mr. Bear always creeped me out. He might still be alive to this day.
Thank you guys so much for watching this Halloween special. Comment down below what was your favorite story. And before we end this video, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the support. I know I said this at the beginning of the video, but I just want to say it again. I started doing TikTok on October 16th, 2020, and it is now October 30th, 2021. We have come so far in 1 year. This is insane. I want to give a massive shout out to Headless. He's been there ever since I started my first YouTube channel back in like 2018, 2019. I also want to give a massive shout out and thanks to Carlos, Julian, and Toad. Just in case you didn't know, those were the people from the skit. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you, God be with you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.